Which shoe is better to hoop in? The Curry Flow 9 or the Curry Flow 8? Today we're putting the two newest models from Stephen Curry's independent shoe line with Under Armour head to head to see how they compare. But really quick, if this is your first time checking us out, feel free to drop a follow or subscribe wherever you're watching and give this video a like. We would greatly appreciate that. But taking a quick look at the box and the price, the Curry 8s are going to get sort of like a matte white box with Steph's new player logo on top and kind of a metallic color. And I'll get into what his logo means a little bit more here in a second because it's honestly pretty sweet. It's got a deeper meaning behind it. But yeah, I mean, a pretty simple box for the Curry 8s. And I started off there because moving it on to the Curry 9s, these are going to just get that same exact box look. So, you know, really nothing to talk about there. But as for pricing, the Curry 9s are going to retail for $160, which, you know, does lean on the middle to kind of the higher end for basketball shoes. And the Curry 8s are just right there with them at $160 too. Steph's line did make a $20 price jump from the 7 to the 8s from last year. So that kind of happened whenever he took on his own line. But at least they did stay the same for this year as far as pricing.
I came back now, getting on his guap. I don't think I better pass now. Paper so long.
So taking a quick look at the appearance for these and starting off with the colorways. Today we're checking out the Curry Flow 9 Warp the Game Day versus the Curry Flow 8 Feel Good Flow. So looking at the 8s first, like I was saying, this is Curry's first shoe since kind of branching out from Under Armour and taking on more of his own like signature product and just stuff like that. And with that, he did start using a new logo. So if you follow the design, you can see the S and the C kind of mixed in there for his initials, of course. And, you know, that is pretty common ground for most players to get their initials worked into that logo. But the design is also meant to represent what it looks like to flash the three-point sign. And, you know, since Steph Curry has made over 3,000 career three-point field goals and holds the record for the most NBA three-pointers made and actually breaks it on a nightly basis whenever he breaks his own record, I'd say it suits him pretty well. And then the last piece on these, that like little part that helps make the three-point sign alone, it's also meant to represent like the high wing on the court. So, I mean, yeah, I just think it's a really thought out logo and I really do love it. I'm sure some people, you know, maybe like the more simplified look, but leaving that alone and actually getting into these models now really quick. The Curry 8s are going to get a colorful band that kind of runs along the midsole, and that allows for some fun colorways in general. And you can see into that stripe, you're going to also have his logo kind of built in there. And it's also going to show up on the tongue on this model too. And then on the heel, it's going to come up pretty high in the back. It's not going to be uncomfortable or anything like that to play in because of it. And there are some more subtle details on this shoe, you know, like the acronym ICDAT, which is going to stand for I Can Do All Things. And that's going to show up right underneath that pull tab on the back of the shoe. And that's actually just like a reference from a Bible verse, Philippians 4:13. But there really isn't a ton to single out about this model other than just, you know, I like it. But switching it over to the Curry 9s now, there are some similarities and some differences between these two models. I think the obvious thing that they have in common would be like, you know, the midsole construct, just kind of the way they went about putting this shoe together. But you are going to have kind of the same incline on the back of the shoe, but a little bit of a different look on the upper with more of like, you know, a weave design, which I think looks pretty tough on this model, I'm not going to lie. But the tongue is definitely what caught my eye first. The Curry 9 is sort of like a patch with like Curry branding on there that almost feels like kind of like a suede texture, and it runs pretty high up, and it even has like a pull tag on there, which is just, you know, pretty unique. But I actually do like it. I think it looks pretty cool. And there are going to be some wavy lines that kind of run behind the design, replacing that patch that was on there for the Curry 8s last year. So I mean, I think these have a really solid look. I mean, Curry is my favorite basketball player, but I still think his shoes look objectively pretty clean. Obviously not everyone is going to agree with that anyway, so now let's go ahead and check out and see how these shoes hold up.
How about something past now? I've been in my bag now. I just got my bag in. Baby, I can brag now.
So now getting into more of the materials and the performance side and starting off with the cushioning. The Curry 8 is the first shoe where Under Armour used that new UA Flow foam technology instead of like a micro G or like a hover setup or something. And, you know, it definitely landed on this model. The Curry 8 is one of the comfier shoes that I've played in. They just give you an amazing on-court cushioning feel. The impact protection is really nice, and the cushioning is just, you know, a really solid aspect for this shoe. I know the Curry 7s did kind of miss the mark a little bit there, but it was definitely solved on this model. And then looking at the Curry 9s, they did follow suit with the Curry 8s and stuck with that UA Flow foam design. And these are still going to be soft, but the immediate feeling is a little bit more stiff than the 8s. I'd say they will require some more break-in time because, you know, the more I played in these, the more they started to loosen up a little bit. So, I mean, that's definitely not a bad part about it, though. And the responsiveness is still going to be really nice. These do still have a better feel than, you know, a lot of shoes are going to have. Like, the impact protection has been really good. It's just an all-around nice on-court feel. So, it is nice to see some improvement in the cushioning section, you know, ever since Curry kind of took over his own line.
How about something past now? I've been in my bag now. I just got my bag in. Baby, I can brag now.
For the materials and the support, the Curry 8s have like a combination of textiles and knit that make up the upper, and this design is definitely a breathable shoe. The knit setup is going to help keep the shoe very light and easy to move around into, and the materials are going to be nice, but they aren't going to be like top tier as far as like support. There is a good heel cup for, your foot to kind of rest in, but the upper does move a little bit on some like, really hard step backs and movements, but I haven't had it bother me like, just over the last year playing in these shoes though. I mean, as far as like, rolling my ankle or like, my foot like sliding around or sliding out of the design, but the upper material is just going to be pretty thin, so your foot won't necessarily feel all the way secure just with the material not being super firm anyways. But now switching it over to the Curry 9s, this is where you start to see a few differences between these two models. So the Curry 9 is going to get a UA warp upper, which has like some technology kind of meant to provide an enhanced comfort and control throughout all your basketball movements, and along with that is going to be a really breathable mesh tongue, allowing for some good ventilation on this model. And I really do like that weave design that's used on this upper. I think I kind of pointed it out in the appearance section, but I think it gives these a really clean look. And the Curry 9s do feel pretty different just compared to the Curry 8s, because on this year's model, your foot sits like, really secure within the shoe. Like whenever you slide these on and you get your foot all the way in the design, it almost feels like you just kind of naturally get locked into the shoe. So, I mean, that was a really good sign. And the high collar around the heel is actually going to be filled into, instead of it being more of like a mesh and kind of bendy or whatever reason it was on the Curry 8s. And I think that does add to the ankle security just a little bit. So Curry did take a step forward just as far as like the support, just by giving you that inner shoe like mold feeling. Don't really know how else to explain it, but like the upper is also going to be a little bit more firm, which is another piece that helps. But like I was saying, ever since Curry's new line kind of took over with the Curry 8s, I mean, these have become like a super light shoe, like almost the lightest that you can get. Like a size 10.5 for the Curry 9 is only going to weigh 348 grams, and the Curry 8 is barely going to be above that at 358 grams. So I mean, for the same size on that too. So anything around the 400 range is going to be a light shoe, and these both had that like number beat by a lot. So I definitely do love the freedom both of these shoes give you just to kind of move around in.
How about something past now? I've been in my bag now. I just got my back in. Baby, I can brag now.
To finish off with traction, this is yet another area that Steph's shoe line just shot straight to the top once they kind of transitioned into being Curry's own brand. So the Curry Flow 8 is going to get a UA Flow outsole that isn't going to get any type of special traction pattern, which I normally am against, because when other models and like brands go out and do that computer generated design and just switch it all up, normally it doesn't come out great, or just not as good as shoes that follow some type of like, herringbone or radial pattern. But apparently that doesn't matter here, because the Curry 8 just absolutely bites the floor. The grip is just really solid. Like I haven't slipped one time that I can recall. And all of that can be said for the Curry 9 too. That is going to get that same UA Flow outsole and pretty much, the exact same look, to be honest. And to no one's surprise, they do kind of hold up about the same on the court. These are just like so sticky. Like I remember the first time I played in the 8s, I was just so shocked, but I am definitely glad that they didn't switch up anything here, because they just didn't really need to. But to finish off with sizing, I did go true to size on both of these models, and the length was good, but they are maybe a little bit on the narrow side, maybe a little bit more so for the Curry 9s and the 8s, so definitely keep that in mind.
You can't play a player, baby, that's just how the game goes.
So for the final ratings, and starting off with the appearance, like I said, I am digging Steph's new look to his line, so I really can't bring myself to choose one or the other, so I will just stay with the tie here. But as for cushioning, these do have the same setup with that UA Flow foam, but for some reason it does feel a little bit softer in the Curry 8s. I mean, the Curry 9s are starting to loosen up. I have already started to notice that, but I am going to give a slight edge to the Curry 8s here. But as for the materials, there is a little bit of a difference between the upper on these shoes for the materials, but both shoes are going to be lightweight, and neither does feel cheap, so I will just stay with the tie here too. But for the support, the Curry 9s are going to give you a little bit more security, and a lot of that is going to be thanks just to how the inside of that shoe feels on your foot, and the warp upper is also a little bit more firm than that knit, so I am going to side with the Curry 9s here. But to finish off with traction, I mean, that part's just a dead tie for me. I mean, it's got the same setup, pretty much the same pattern, and the same positive playing experience on both of those shoes, so this is going to lead to one of the rare ties for performance between these shoes. I mean, not every line is going to get that though, just because we stay within the same shoe line here. I mean, like I have the LeBron 19s over the LeBron 18s. I have the Harden 6 over the Harden 5s, but I mean, these shoes are just really nice. The Curry 8s, I mean, get the slight edge for cushioning, but I am going to have to go with the Curry 9s. They give you a little bit more of a secure feel, so both shoes are going to be lightweight. They have a really good traction, good breathability, and just two really solid models all the way around. So if you're interested in buying one or both of these shoes and you want to support our channel, we do have an affiliate link in the description below that gives us a little commission that goes back into reviewing more shoes. So feel free to check that out. And if you want to fill out the form below, if you have any type of shoe comparison that you want to request, we do have a form in the description, so feel free to check that out too. But until next review, I'm Landon from Shoeware. Peace.
You can't play a player, baby. That's just how the game goes.